So there's a biker way over there. Might not be able to see him in the cell phone, but he caught up to me and he was wondering what the track that the Onewheel is making. He was like, what the censored is that? So now he knows. Now he knows what made the wide track on this Rimview trail. But no, that's not the biggest purpose of why I'm making this video. Under the front here, we have the Fangs, and this one took a heck of a beating. So, you know, they still spin. That one spins good. This one's getting kind of cocky. I do not recommend using Fangs in any kind of off-road conditions. So you can see that one got hit pretty hard. Even the bumper took a chunk out of it. This one's wiggling a little bit. I can feel some grit. But yeah, you know, you're gonna get all sorts of dust in them. They're not gonna spin as good. And they get in the way of any kind of climbing. You know, this trail right here is pretty smooth, but there's some segments where there's some bigger rocks and things, and having that little extra bit of clearance. A better thing to have would be the full latest version of the float plates that go all the way up to the nose, because then you can skid on this nice plastic up the side of whatever you're trying to climb, any kind of rugged rocks. That is what would be better for people who use their Onewheels off-road. If you're going streets, then the Fangs are awesome. They're excellent. Otherwise, I think just the latest version of the float plates that go all the way to the nose are going to be the best option for you. And if you want to keep these from spinning around, maybe some outdoor double-sided tape maybe as you're applying them to your nose of your board might help. That's one idea. I've never tried it. Man, I love this trail. So awesome. Alright, so I got the mini Fangs because I knew I was going to be off-roading occasionally. But they just gonna get beat up too much. They're gonna get filled with dirt. They're just gonna get beat up way too much. So any kind of Fangs off-road are really not going to work. Woo! Here's a drop. And if I were going the other direction, that would be a perfect example of the Fangs getting beat up. You want the minimalist loss of clearance possible. No Fangs, only protective plates. Holy, oh my gosh. Woohoo! Holy. And this is gonna be way too rocky to go up, so that's a Fang destroyer right there, trying to go up that steep, and lots of little rocks and big rocks. Let's get down here so you can see that a little better. That's what we got here. See my Fangs sticking out there. That's gonna go on my Plus when I get home. I'm gonna convert my Plus into a road board. This will be my anything and everything board. And then the Pint will be whatever the kids want it to be. And ladies and gentlemen, this is also why you need to carry an Allen key, some tools so you can tighten things up that loosen up, especially if you off-road. I don't have a key to get this thing completely off or tighten it back up. Onewheel XR. Again, we're on the Rimview Trail. And this time I am truly standing very close to the most northeast corner of the Rimview Trail and Page. So just around this turn here is the very northern east part. So my Pint off-road test video is a little bit incorrect as far as the terminology on where I went to. So this point right there is where I was at when I misspoke and said I was at the most northeast corner. This is the most middle north corner. So the Rimview Trail kind of makes a half moon cut twice on the north end of Page. So there's a point way over here, which is Potato Hill, which is right out the end of Indigo Ridge, the community over here. And then that's where I was. And now, this is where I am here. The true northeast corner of the Rimview Trail. So, a little bit incorrect. We're doing an extra long ride today, starting from the very southeast corner of the Rimview Trail, going all the way down the east side, down the airport, parallel to the airport, and then taking the north back to Indigo Ridge and back home. You can see the fence line of the airport right there. Super fun, y'all. Not as fast as a mountain bike, but super fun. Alright, I'm standing again on what I used to think was the most northeast corner of the Rimview Trail, but over there is, which I think I was just kind of blind to it, or I just looked at it and thought that's the east side, not the northeast side, which is kind of ridiculous. But anyway, we're here and we got a ways to go still. So this is the Onewheel XR. We have the Vega tire, which is quite flat, but you can see the track here, how it's weaved in and out of some of these rocks and boulders here. On the trail I've run into places where these rocks and boulders were bigger, and the narrower wheel and narrower board, just smaller board in general of the Pint, is more comfortable riding in these type of specific scenarios where you're weaving between obstructions. And again, right here, the Pint would be more comfortable at weaving through these rocks, these boulders here. But if we scoot this right back into this cranny here, you can see that it's exactly the size of this opening here. So if you're going through the opening versus cascading down the rocks, you're gonna get really tight in here. So right there at the low point is the sandy spot that I couldn't go through with the Pint. And with this machine, the XR, and the flatter tire, I really wasn't able to go much further through the sand. But coming up this hill, all the way to the point right there, I can make the whole thing with the XR, but the Pint struggled on this hill. So the XR is going to have more power, it's going to have a higher top speed, but on this trail I never hit the top speed. Almost never. There's just too much varied terrain for me to ever hit top speed on this trail. But it does have more power, and it has higher clearance, which is really helpful, especially on littler inclines going up hills and bigger inclines going straight. The Pint, however, is much more nimble, just simply because it's smaller, it's thinner, it's narrower. You can weave in and out, you can thread the needle. Both are amazing machines, super fun to enable you to zen and surf anywhere, everywhere, anytime, any place, just about. So what Onewheel would I prefer to have on these trails? The Onewheel XR with a rounder tire. That is what I would rather have. The Pint is awesome, but it just does not have enough range, and I would rather have a little extra clearance and a little extra power for little bumps like that. So yeah, for me it's the XR, but it doesn't mean I don't enjoy the Pint. So depending on what you can afford, what's available, and where you're going, what you're doing, how far you want to go, all those things, all those subjective things, it's all going to depend on you. Woohoo! Whether you want the Pint or the XR, I would not recommend the Plus, because eventually you're going to want more range. I know it. And the Plus is not very fun to be doing on trails like this with augmented, extended modification battery packs. It's just not fun to have those things on your board when you're trying to do these trails and have the extra weight and lopsided balance on your board. So unless you're on streets only and more flat terrain, I would not recommend a Plus. I would not recommend a modified Plus.
Lastly, here's a few pictures. You'll notice that the fang is missing on the left side. It dropped off while I was riding on the trail. When I got home, my XR was out of battery, so I hopped on the Pint, went back on the trail in reverse direction, and I actually found my missing fang. Was so stoked. I love this trail. I love the views. It never gets old. It's just something that it's hard to describe as many times as I see it. Up next is a picture of some sand. I rode that far through that sand, that soft sand. So it's pretty amazing, even in soft sand. But eventually soft sand will overcome the Onewheel and almost any wheeled device for that matter. Again, there is that narrow path. The Pint will nimbly squeeze between little rocks and things, thread the needle. And here's how dirty it was after my run on the trails. We'll take a look at my dirty shoes last.
Alright, so can you guys guess which of these shoes is my rear foot? Is it the right one? Or is it the left one? I pretty much gave it away with the laugh.